Henry Callahan was a man who had everything the world could offer. He was a self-made millionaire with towering skyscrapers under his name, fleets of luxury cars, private jets, and a mansion on the hills that overlooked the city like a palace of marble and glass. Yet for all his wealth and power, his heart carried a wound that no fortune could heal. For his only son Ethan had been born autistic and paralyzed from the waist down, unable to walk, unable to play like other children, trapped in a body that refused to move and a mind that struggled to express itself. And while Henry could buy companies with the snap of a finger, he could not buy his son's freedom. And every evening when he returned home from boardrooms and negotiations, he would stop by Ethan's room, watch the boy sitting silently in his wheelchair, and feel a pain deeper than any business loss, whispering silently to himself, "What good is all of this if my son cannot even take a single step?" Doctors from around the globe had come and gone, each promising breakthroughs with stem cells, robotics, genetic therapies, yet every treatment ended the same, with medical jargon and shaking heads telling Henry the same devastating words: "Your son will never walk." And Amelia, his wife, wept behind closed doors, hiding her sorrow from Ethan so the boy would not see her despair, while Henry buried himself in work, convincing himself that if he just earned more, funded more research, built more labs, then maybe the miracle would come. But it never did, until one quiet afternoon when Amelia introduced a new caregiver into their home, a young woman named Clara, who had no famous degree, no scientific accolades, just a gentle smile and a history of caring for her younger brother who was also autistic. And though Henry at first dismissed her as nothing more than hired help, he soon noticed that Ethan responded to Clara in ways he never had to anyone else. For while doctors treated him like a patient and machines treated him like data, Clara treated him like a boy who deserved love, patience, and laughter, singing silly songs as she stretched his legs, telling him colorful stories as she encouraged him to push against the floor. And Henry began to hear something he had almost forgotten existed in his house, the sound of his son's laughter, the sparkle of joy in Ethan's eyes whenever Clara entered the room. And one night, as Henry walked past the hallway, he stopped cold at the sound of Ethan's voice, soft but clear, saying, "Clara," again, asking her to repeat a game. And tears burned Henry's eyes because in 10 years of therapies and specialists, no one had ever drawn such words from his son. And from that night forward, he began to believe that maybe miracles didn't always wear lab coats, maybe they came in the form of human connection. And so he gave Clara full freedom to design whatever program she believed in, ignoring the scoffs of colleagues and the doubts of experts who mocked the idea of entrusting his paralyzed son's care to an inexperienced girl. But Henry trusted what he saw, and what he saw was change. Ethan began to try humming along with Clara's songs. He began lifting his fragile arms with effort, pressing his tiny feet against the ground when Clara supported him. And though every movement was shaky, every step incomplete, Henry saw progress where once there had been none, and his heart dared to hope again, though hope terrified him, for he had lived through so many shattered promises. But as weeks turned into months, Ethan grew stronger, his posture straighter, his smiles wider, his attempts braver, until one evening when Clara placed her hands under his arms and encouraged him to lean forward, and Ethan, trembling, sweating, straining, lifted himself, pressing his feet firmly on the floor, balancing for a heartbeat without the wheelchair. And Henry, watching from the doorway, felt his knees buckle with awe, whispering, my boy," as tears streamed down his face. And that was the beginning of the impossible, for from that day on, Ethan tried harder, Clara pushed gently, Amelia prayed silently, and Henry dedicated himself not to money but to moments with his son, learning patience, learning to cheer for every small victory, until the day came when, surrounded by family and staff, Clara let go of Ethan's hands. And though his legs trembled, though his body shook, the boy who had never walked before took one unsteady step, then another, and the room erupted in gasps and cries, Amelia collapsing to her knees in gratitude, Henry covering his mouth as sobs overcame him, because his son, his paralyzed, autistic, beautiful son, was walking, defying every medical prediction, proving that love, patience, and faith can achieve what the world calls impossible. And from that day forward, Henry no longer measured wealth in millions but in moments, in laughter, in every step his son took. And the Callahan mansion was no longer just a palace of marble and glass, it was a home of miracles. And as Henry later told the world in an emotional speech, money can buy you doctors, machines, and research, but it cannot buy you hope, it cannot buy you love, it cannot buy you the miracle of faith. But if you find people who believe, who give their hearts, miracles will follow. And to all watching this story, remember, miracles are real, hope is real, never give up on the people you love. And if this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to our channel, because every story we share is a reminder that no matter how dark life feels, light is always waiting to shine.